The views expressed on this podcast are our own and do not constitute endorsement by the Department of War, the Department of the Air Force, or the U.S. government. Bring us her triumphs, her challenges, her legacy. Bring Us Women, a podcast brought to you by Isabella Horning and Ali Fatso.
Hey, Bring Us Women Squad. Before we dive into today's episode, we want to take a moment to set the tone. From the very beginning, we promised to bring you honest, authentic conversations, the ones we don't have often enough, yet the ones that shape who we are as individuals and influence how we see the world. Today's episode is one of those conversations. Some of the stories and experiences we'll discuss involve combat, loss, and the realities of war. If you've served, have loved someone who served, or have experienced trauma yourself, some parts of this episode may be difficult or triggering. Today's guest is Jordan St. Pierre, one of Issa's best friends from intelligence school. Jordan was a prior enlisted 1-0 All-Source Intelligence Analyst who went on to earn her commission through the ROTC program at Colorado State University. She is currently stationed at Moody Air Force Base, where she supports the A-10 mission. Jordan recently returned home from a 9-month deployment in support of Operation Inherent Resolve and Operation Epic Fury.
While every deployment is different, each one requires families, friends, and service members to shoulder enormous personal sacrifices in service to our country. One of the things Jordan explains is that not all deployments look the same. During this episode, she'll walk us through the difference between what many would consider a more traditional deployment and what it was like to transition into an active combat environment. She first deployed in support of Operation Inherent Resolve, where her unit supported operations against ISIS. Later, her mission shifted under Operation Epic Fury, bringing a dramatically different operational tempo and level of intensity. The pace, the targets, the daily realities, and the emotional weight of the mission changed significantly, and Jordan will explain what those differences looked like from her perspective. This isn't an episode filled with funny deployment stories. Instead, it's an honest conversation about service, sacrifice, and the realities of operating in a war zone. Jordan also reflects on how those experiences shaped her perspective on mortality, the bonds formed between her teammates, and the responsibility she feels to honor those who served alongside of her, including the 15 Americans who were killed during Operation Epic Fury. Jordan, we are so glad to have you back home, and we're honored to have you today on our podcast to hear more about your deployment and let our listeners, as well as us, learn from you. So we're just so happy you're here.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, Jordan, we want to know, when you first found out you were deploying, what was that immediate reaction that you had?
I feel like I'm a little bit different than most. So I originally enlisted in 2016, and it felt like my whole career, 10 years in July, I was chasing deployment after deployment. I got super close to deploying from Hill, and then I ended up commissioning instead. So then this was like the first time I actually got to go on a true Middle Eastern deployment, and I felt like it was time to get my hands dirty in the sandbox. So I was super excited. I was over the moon. I was very fortunate that because I deployed in like a traditional cycle, that I had enough time, unlike those who were told like 2 weeks before that they had to leave. I got told in about July, and I was leaving in September. So I had a good amount of time to get my affairs in order. So overall, very, very, very happy.
That's good. I'm glad that you had that initial reaction. I can say that I was on the other side of the coin. I was freaking out a little bit. You know, at the time, I didn't think that we were going to get deployed because the conversation was trending towards keeping the bombers CONUS. And then all of a sudden they were like, okay, you're leaving in 4 days. Do everything that you got to do. And at that time, I remember I was like, okay, right. So what is it that I do? And Issa, fortunately, gave me your contact information, and you were the first person that I immediately reached out to, like, help, what do I do? What do I even pack? So I'm glad that you had it figured out.
I felt so bad in my text message. You're like, is there anything I should bring? And I was like, clothes to be in a bunker with. Like, I was like, not probably giving you the warmest fuzzies either.
No, you gave me really good advice. I used it a lot to pack, and I felt a lot more prepared than if I would have just packed my stuff. So that's saying something.
Good.
Well, it sounds like, Jordan, unlike Ali, you had a lot of preparation going into your deployment. So did you feel completely prepared, or is deployment something that you can never fully prepare for?
It definitely is something you can't fully prepare for. I think I had my affairs in order, my car, my apartment, etc. But the emotional like preparation that you're about to be gone for 6 months is something that it gets to a point where you just want to go and get it started. Like you're waiting and you're waiting, and it will never feel fully ready. You just have to take a leap of faith and just hope that it goes well while you're out there, and that's about it.
Yeah. Was there any advice that you received from your unit about what to expect, or anyone that you knew that might have already been out there?
I think it was really great. A lot of people were transparent that it feels like 6 months. Like in regular life, you're holy cow, 6 months flew by, but you feel the entire 6 months while you're out there. So I went out there not hoping for it to fly by or expecting it to fly by. And then 6 months turned into 9 months. So luckily our extension happened. I don't know if luckily is the right word, but our extension happened a month at a time. So it was never like 4 months in, you're going to be here for 5 more months. It was like 1 more month. Okay, maybe 1 more month. And now you guys get to go home. So that was good at least. But I went in expecting it to feel like a long time, which it did.
Dang. Yeah, I guess the U.S. military is always pretty good with their phrasing. They promise you a little bit and then keep you out there
It's
longer.
Like close. Yeah, exactly.
But so once you arrived out to your deployment, what was initially the biggest adjustment for you?
Oh, see, I want to be honest about the stuff. I would hate to ever deter anyone from wanting to deploy. I'm super proud of myself, and it is, as Allie can probably talk to, you learn so much, your perspective changes, whatever it may be. But the base I was deployed to in Jordan, my first immediate reaction when I saw my room and the bathrooms was I called my mom crying. It was like, there's no way I can do this. We had roommates at the time. Now they have even more roommates than we did at the time. And the bathrooms are just exactly as you'd imagine a deployed bathroom to be. I think those that deploy to Qatar or UAE have a much better experience. But the base that I was at in Jordan, oh, my mom had to walk me through some tears for sure.
I think that's funny because I feel like the Air Force oftentimes gets made fun of to have like, oh, deployments in the Air Force, you're like going to a hotel or like 5-star resort as opposed to the Army or the Navy like on ships and all of that. But I remember seeing where you were and being like, oh no.
It was not nice. And you get used to it. I'm lucky that I had adjusted to that base. So before I deployed to a different location that was worse, I was already in it. I was like, porta potties only? That's fine. Like, that's comparable. But if I went from this regular nice life to that, I would have probably cried every day.
Yeah, I do think that's a relatable experience. I remember when we were leaving, they were like, oh, I mean, you're not going to be in the sandbox. It's going to be pretty Gucci. And we got here and we are in dorms, so fortunate for that, but they're condemned dorms. So dorms that no one was supposed to be living in. And within like a matter of a few weeks, they got them spun up for people to actually live in them again. And I walked in and just saw all of the asbestos labels on the walls. And I was like, oh, okay. So my long-term health is at risk. And then we saw that we were sharing a bathroom, like one little small bathroom, like Harry Potter would have thought it looked big. And it was just like 6 girls. And the floors, yeah, I don't even want to describe how it is living with that many girls, but you can imagine. You can just...
Oh, yeah. Well, as we were showing up, because it happened so quickly, us forward deploying, they were setting up our bathrooms as we were moving in. Like, they were setting up the Cadillac toilets and showers, which, mind you, were, 1, set up terribly, but 2, disgusting. By the end of it, there was like dung beetles in our showers with us because there's no plumbing. So like you would use the toilet, it would like sit nearby, like the waist, and then the dung beetles would come to it, which is also where we showered. So I think we all have bad bathroom experiences.
Yeah. Well, hey, I guess we're gritty for that one.
I know. I can definitely do more gross things than I ever thought I would need to.
Proud of you. Proud of you. So besides that, were there any kind of assumptions that you had about your deployment location that turned out to be completely wrong or validated what you knew you were getting into?
I would definitely say what I expected was validated. We had the first location that we were at in Jordan was basically just your typical deployment. We're doing this. We're in it right now. Our hands are messy and you're not ever getting clean. Then when we forward deployed, that was a whole different beast. All the men had to live together. There was men and women who had to live together in some bays. And then all us women officers live together. So that I never expected. I never since BMT did I think I'd live in a bay again. But there I was living in a bay again. And like the guys had it so much worse. There was like 30 of them in a room. And it was just one big open room, like square style.
Wow, that's actually insane. So at your first location, walk us through what a day in the life was like and then how that kind of changed when you moved to that second location.
So my first location is when we were supporting Operation Inherent Resolve, which was a way, I mean, this fight had been going on for years now, way more expected ops tempo. We worked a 12 and 8 and 8 and had the day off. We were a team of 4 and that was super manageable. I was on night shift. That's just when more ops were happening was on nights. So myself and the captain I was with were on night shift. And then that happened for about 4 months. Super nice, very chill. The pilots had it locked down. They knew exactly what they were doing by like month 1. And then we transitioned to Epic Fury, which was the same time that we forward deployed. And that ops tempo was nuts. Surprisingly, and for some reason, the war was fought during the daytime. So H hour on D-Day was sunrise for us in Jordan. So we were like starting our day. We had just did swap over. Myself and the captain were getting on shift. And we were just watching it live happen. Like our pilots were literally taking off as the missiles were hitting our base. So it was super early. And then, I mean, selfishly, I loved being on day shift just because day shift is better for eating and whatever. So
Yeah.
the war was on day shift. And that was like one silver lining to the whole thing is that I was now having breakfast, lunch, and dinner like regular people. But the ops tempo was crazy. We worked 101 days straight from when the war started to when we finally left. And that was nuts. We had 2 no-fly days during that. And then other than that, our intel team worked every single day, 12-hour days.
And before that, remind me, how long were you at Moody? Like, did you have really good rapport with your unit and the air crew, or were they still kind of getting used to you as an intelligence officer for them?
I was an augmentee for the 75th Fighter Squadron. So there was the 3 core intel that belonged to the squadron. And then I just slithered my way in. I wanted to go on the deployment so bad that I would be poking around. I'd be like, are you guys sure you don't need somebody else to come with you? And then finally, the captain was like, fine, you can come with us. And I was like, yes, but I didn't know anybody. So I went out there like meeting pilots in September. But by the time we left, I know them very well now. So
That's cool. Was there any kind of level of having to prove that you could do the mission planning and you knew basically the scenario very well?
Yes, we were really fortunate. I'm sure you feel the exact opposite of this. Like we had enough time to transition mindsets from Syria and Iraq to Iran. And by the time we started mission planning for Operation Epic Fury, I had enough rapport where I was invited to come to any type of mission planning that happened. But getting out there, I definitely had to like slowly get into it and have people trust me. So that was a learning curve in itself, definitely.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did the mission planning change a lot from what you were previously doing to that, or was it the same type of sorties initially that you were running?
Well, we were really, you probably experienced this as well. They would really just send us like our target deck, and then it was up to us to find more specific information about that target deck to pass to the pilots. But it got to a point like we were dropping bombs 5 lines a day, almost every single sortie for weeks. So the pilots at first were super jazzed, obviously. It's like I don't know if you've seen that meme. It's like 2 wolves that's like super awesome. I get to drop bombs real world. And then the other one is like, but I'm dropping bombs real world. It's like the 2 wolves of it. But at first everyone was super jazzed to be doing it. But then after like week 2, 3, the pilots were like, holy cow, like we are still doing this. And it's the same buildings and the same location. And we don't even really need mission planning done because it's just the same thing over and over again. Still exciting, and there was some cool things that were added in there, of course, but it lost its sparkle for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think, you talked about how your traditional deployment quickly turned into this high tempo, crazy ops sort of thing. And deployments already are difficult for communication with families back home. And I know you have a boyfriend, so with your boyfriend who was back home, with friends, all of that. And so I can't imagine how adding the high tempo and ops to all of that made it even more increasingly difficult. So can you kind of talk us through how that communication was difficult throughout your deployment?
Yeah. So when I was on night shift supporting Inherent Resolve, I was able to talk to home all the time. And if anyone's ever worried about communicating back home, if you're on night shift in the Middle East, that's daytime here. So I got to spend Christmas on the phone, Thanksgiving. Me and Jacob, my boyfriend, would talk basically every single day. When we switched to Epic Fury and I was now working night or day shift, I never got to really talk to home. And it honestly got really challenging to do, especially like week 2 in. My mom would call and be like, I heard you're getting bombed on the news. I'd be like, I'm fine. I'm wearing my full battle rattle. In the back, it's like, bunkers, bunkers. I'm like, I gotta go, Mom. Don't worry about anything, though. I'll just talk to you later. Don't worry. And then, so she would call me like crying every like 3rd day. And I'd be like, it's okay. It's okay. She's like, you look terrible, Jordan. You look terrible.
Moms are always so honest like that.
I know. I was like, that's not making me feel any better. But yeah, so between that and then we were obviously not sleeping through the night because we were bunkering. I got really bad at communicating back at home, truthfully. It was just a lot because I would be like lying the whole time. I'd be like, I'm fine, I'm safe. I'm like crossing my fingers I'm back. But I was lucky to be at a base that was not as bad. I would hate to take away from any location that was hit so much worse. So I'm very fortunate that I had none impact as close to me as a lot of my friends did, but it stopped my mom from worrying a lot.
So looking back on the deployment, was there check-ins or communications from family like your mom and your parents and friends that made the biggest difference?
To this day, I journaled a lot while I was out there, and all the time I'd write about how thankful I was for my support system. Since I've been in the military for so long, I think a lot of my community is military. One, I had a lot of friends that were out in the Middle East already or nearby, so that was really nice. But then I've also had a lot of friends who had deployed before and just were familiar with deployments or had done it themselves. And then my dad is also a retired veteran. So everyone in my corner just kind of had a military flavor to them. So I'm so lucky. Like Issa did a wonderful job writing to me and sent me so many gifts. We had like so much ramen noodles. We didn't even know what to do with all of them.
Christmas in the sandbox.
The Rubik's Cubes went crazy. People loved the Rubik's Cubes, especially that big like hexagon one. The pilots loved it.
Yeah, for anyone listening out there, certain locations Amazon does deliver. So if you're worried about packing like a big like box to send out there, just go on Amazon.
They came quick.
Send it through Amazon. It's a lifesaver.
I'm trying to imagine like bombs going off and this little Amazon driver pulls up. He's like Middle Eastern. He's like, I have your Rubik's Cubes.
This is so important.
Well, getting back to your family and friends and the support that they gave you, what did you need most from the people in your life when you were there?
Oh, good question. It was difficult to ask for what I needed. It was really wonderful to have people just show up. Because when you're out there, you don't want to like burden everybody back home because you already being gone feels like a burden. And it's really wonderful when people would just send stuff or just ask what you needed and would just send letters and send photos and just do anything that they felt like was helpful. Because I don't know if Allie, you feel this at all, but I feel so bad that I was gone for so long. Like it was a weird guilt that I carried that I was missing out on Jacob's life and my sister's life, and my mom and dad's. Like I was just not there. So I didn't want to ask for anything because me already being gone felt like it was hard enough. But people wanted to show up and they wanted to send stuff, and just texting and making sure you're okay, sending random packages, even if they're small and just thoughtful, and writing letters, especially with photos, went a long way. So I would say if anyone has a loved one deployed, just showing up, even if it doesn't seem like they want you to, would be the most helpful thing to do.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, and I think that's good for me to hear too, because I know when you were deployed and now when Allie's deployed, there's like so many times where I'm like you talk about being a burden because you're gone, but in my mind I'm like, oh well, they're deployed, they're doing the mission, they're busy. They don't need me texting them, like annoying them. So there were so many times in the beginning, Jordan, that I felt like I was like, hey, like, sorry to bother you, but just want to know if you're okay.
No, I loved it. Like when our group chat, I think Ari, shout out Ariel Fischler, love her. She said to you guys what was happening, and then all of you guys would keep texting me. And I was like, oh, this is so nice that she took it upon herself to share with our friend group something that I wasn't going to share because I didn't want to burden you guys. Like that is such a wonderful way that a friend can show up.
Yeah, because that even Ari sharing that did help a lot, because I felt like it kind of like bridged the gap, because like we didn't know what was happening. And when my mom asked for your number to see if she could contact, I was like, okay, Mom, you can have it, but like she's working. So like, don't bother her too much.
That was so sweet. She would text me the longest, sweetest text messages. She was so kind.
So funny.
Shout out Michelle. We love you. The deployment mom.
For real.
Yeah, I also noticed when I would have catch up with my friends that they'd kind of start telling me something about their lives and then they'd stop themselves and say something, but it's nothing compared to deployment, or I shouldn't complain to you. And every time I'd be like, no, tell me, like all of our challenges are uniquely our own, and I don't need everyone to tiptoe around me because I happen to be deployed. I want to hear about the drama, the relationship updates, the random annoyances that you're experiencing during your day. Because honestly, that's what makes you feel connected to home, like you said about your group chat. And also, it just kind of reminds you that you're still part of their everyday life.
Oh, yes. It was like I was gripping straws for normalcy. And what normalcy was hearing my friends talk with the drama back home. And I was like, yes, like my sister talking about these boys that she's dating. I'm like, tell me everything. I just want to be part of your life still, even though I'm super far away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking about being away for so long, were there any specific milestones, holidays, or events that you especially hated missing?
Yes, I would say our squadron did a wonderful job. We had phenomenal leadership, and at some point I would love to talk about how wonderful our commander and DO were. But throughout the deployment, we expected to miss Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's Day, birthday, Halloween, but we did not expect to miss April onwards. So although they weren't big holidays, I think everybody was a little bummed when we were still out there for Memorial Day after we had left, like shortly after Labor Day. So I think everyone was like, holy cow, we've been out here for so long. This just feels like I am no longer mentally prepared to be out here. I didn't expect to miss this part of my life. A lot of people had things planned. They had summer things. People missed graduations. They missed weddings. It got to a point where no one had planned to miss those events. And I think that is what really weighed heavy on the squadron as a whole.
Yeah. Was there a moment besides that while you were out there where like you guys came together and decided, you know what, we're gonna do something together that just makes us feel like a little piece of home? Did you guys have anything like that?
Thankfully, my squadron, we had 2 roll calls while I was out there, and those were a blast. I don't know if people are familiar with roll calls, but it's just a thing that they do in the pilot community. And we had done one after the rescue that we did at Dude 44, and that was amazing. It was like everybody finally got to take a little bit of load off of their shoulders, especially the pilots that had participated in it. And that was something that our commander did such a good job at, was having our events be after the Dude 44 rescue and then after the first ceasefire was signed. And those were like the 2 biggest, most joyful moments that we had out there. And our commander did a wonderful job being like, let's celebrate this as a squadron because we just did something huge. And those were great moments. We had a really good time. We sang a whole lot of Creed, smoked a lot of cigarettes, and it was exactly as you would imagine a deployment party to be.
Heck yes, Creed and cigs. Nothing like it.
Exactly.
Nothing screams Murica like that.
Exactly.
Well, before we move on to the next topic, just to circle back to talking about your time with Jacob at home and your family back at home, what advice do you have for couples or families who are preparing for that deployment separation?
Another good question, Issa. I believe to talk about what support you need while you're out there. If I could go back in time and have made a better plan with Jacob to communicate, it would have been telling him what I needed from him as a partner. I was so, again, circling back to feeling like a burden. Like I felt guilty that I was out here. I felt like I was a burden to our relationship. And I felt like I had deterred the plans that we had for our lives in this period of it. And if I would have just said that and I would have just voiced that instead of like pretending to show up and be happy and make his life easier by being a different person on the phone, I think it would have really helped our communication, because at a certain point, I just wanted to talk less on the phone and I would avoid our phone calls because I wasn't showing up as how I actually felt anymore, because I felt burdened. I was tired. War was hard, but I wanted to shield Jacob from all of that. And I wish I would have just been like, hey, I'm actually having a really hard time and it's really difficult for me to show up on this FaceTime presently. So can we just text, or can you just accept that I kind of just need to cry in the car and you can watch? And that's what I need to do right now, instead of trying to show up as like a really happy, cheerful partner. And it's something I would have done differently, and I think may help other couples going out there, is just be truthful about the feelings and experience that you're having.
It's actually really funny because when I was reflecting and looking at all these questions and how I would answer it for myself, that was actually verbatim what I said. That I've seen a lot out here as well is just people in their relationships, whether it comes to like staying loyal in your relationship or whatever. If you can't communicate about the little things, it ends up spiraling into really, or can spiral into really big things. So I think that you're 100% spot on when, like, even if it's something that's like happening in the unit, for example, I know Jacob is also going through pilot training. So is my husband, Harold. And it was like, well, you already have a lot on your plate. I don't want you to hear all this sad stuff that I have to say. And every time I'm calling, I'm saying these kind of negative things, which is pretty opposite of our personalities. So it felt pretty weird to just be on the phone and that's all I really have to say. But when I finally, came to that point where that was like something that I really needed to share with Harold, he was very receptive, and I would absolutely say that that's the best advice for people.
Oh yeah. That's what my mom said after the fact. She was like, Jacob never asked to be shielded from this. Like, you just assumed that he wanted to be, and that is what caused like the lack of communication that we had towards the end of the deployment. And also something, Allie, that you said that I really resonate with, that I've thought of before, is I'm usually such a cheerful and optimistic person, but my entire life felt negative and pessimistic, and I had no control over that. Like, I would talk about what we ate that day, really crappy food, showering, covered in dung beetles, at work, covered in mold. Like, my entire life was negative, and I am not a negative person. So now I was in these emotions that were completely uncomfortable to me, that I was wanting to shield everyone from. Like, I didn't want my parents to know. I didn't want Jacob to know, because that's just not who I am. But now all of a sudden I was experiencing things that made me feel very much like just a different person.
I think it's also crazy to hear both of you talk about how you wanted to shield your partners from everything that you were going through, when both of your partners are active duty military as well. And and so, like, out of anything, it's almost maybe to someone who's a civilian spouse or a civilian partner, that might be different, but it's crazy to hear that even like a military spouse or partner, you would also want to shield them from things that they could possibly see one day or experience one day.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I feel like it was something too where it was almost like I kind of need to reason with this and figure out how I like feel about it first. Sometimes I like to do that before I share it with others. And so I don't know if that was your experience too, Jordan, but just like, I don't really know how I feel about all this right now. I don't even know exactly how to communicate the experience that I'm having right now. Because on one part, I'm like, hell yeah, we're dropping bombs. We're stoked, boys. And on the other side, I'm like, as analysts, like, we see imagery, we see, and it's like, these are other people's lives, their spouses, their husbands, their wives, their children, whatever it may be, that are also being affected on the other side. And I think that's really something that takes a while to adjust to and to think about.
Oh, yes. And I'm sure your squadron probably went through this as well. Like, as pilots, they expect to drop bombs one day, but it was the first time a lot of them have been dropping bombs on people. And that was something that was, I think, sat heavy with all of us, that I'm sure a lot of people have to process. Everyone who's deployed Operation Epic Fury, that's actually doing real combat drops on personnel, I'm sure feel a lot of ways about that.
Yeah, it was the first time that I've ever experienced, obviously my first deployment, but air crew that were much older than me coming to me and confiding in me and being like, what were those targets that I just struck? Did I like kill anyone? And it's really hard too, because sometimes like I don't have those answers. Like, dude, your bombs drop from so high up that all I see is mega explosion. So like, I don't know what to say in this moment to comfort you, but just know that you carried out the mission that you were tasked to carry out. And ultimately, like, I think the one thing that really kept them all going was knowing that they were doing their best to defend and support all of you that were over there. And that's really what I think allowed them to sleep at night, is knowing that they were protecting all of you out there.
Something you just reminded me of, I think that was difficult in our squadron as well, is we had a lot of media attention of what we were doing in Iraq. I don't know if you guys ever saw that on like Ocean Defender, for example. The A-10 was busy and with tons of video footage because we were doing all of it during the day. And I think that was also weird because I think what was happening in Iran still is pretty classified, private, whatever that may be. There's not a lot of video footage that came out of it. Shout out to their internet outage that their government did to them. But in Iraq, that wasn't the case. So there was so many videos floating around, and our pilots would be like, oh, that's me. That's someone recording me drop these bombs on these buildings. Like a human being is recording this, and now it's on Twitter or X. And I think that also was really weird, just to see what they're doing now on media with thousands of likes and retweets and stuff, which was also something that none of us really expected to happen either.
I think that's kind of crazy to think about, though, because that's like, I mean, not that the internet was invented yesterday, but in a lot of like past conflicts, you wouldn't have media like this at everyone's fingertips. And now we're kind of like in this age of conflict where everyone has a cell phone, everyone can record a video, post it on Twitter, post it on wherever, and then it's out there. And how do we deal with that? Because I feel like in the past, it's like what stayed on deployment or what happened on deployment stayed on deployment. And now it's out there.
Yeah. And there were pilots would say that people would send them stuff and be like, was this you? Did you do this? And it's like now people back home and wives and moms and fathers are like watching the bombs that I'm dropping because it's on social media. And that is crazy. And I think that was something that was niche to our squadron because we were some of the only people dropping in Iraq. So it just we felt very isolated in that context as well.
Yeah, I thought it was funny when you were saying that your mom was calling you being like, I saw this is happening and bombs are dropping here, like our little intel back home.
Yeah.
But it was also so hard too because she'd be like, you know, and I'm sure you felt this from your family, like, oh, is this actually like what's going on? Are we going to do this next? Was this true? And it also puts you in a tough position as intel because it's like, well, actually, those are national secrets.
Yeah.
You are scrolling through on Twitter. So I don't really know how to respond to you right now. And all I would say is, I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to talk about it. And that was also a hard thing because it's like, I don't really want to share this right now because also I don't know what I'm getting into. There's some gray area there for sure. Like, Ocean Defender just posted about it, but I just saw that it had a classification on it. So I'm not really sure what's going on here.
Yeah, Ocean Defender was crazy quick with this information they would get. I was like, are they in this room with us right now? We would literally get the classified briefing, and then 2 days later, it'd be an Ocean Defender. I was like, what? This is nuts.
Yeah, who is Ocean Defender?
I know, literally.
Ocean Defender is the people. Anyways, so from what we just talked about, we know that the units went through a lot together. And while our family support matters a lot, the people around on deployment are often the ones that become like your second family. So how quickly did you find your people after arriving?
Pretty quick. Our squadron was I loved it. And I think our squadron loved it. I'm not sure if the outsiders did. We were very like, we're our own bubble. Like, do not come hang out with us. We don't want outsiders around. There'd be a few that would come and go of like friends of people in our squadron. I think a lot of people who go to maybe bigger bases like in Qatar or UAE have more people that they hang out with. But when we had forward deployed to our base and we would have people stop by, we would all be like, what are you doing in our space right now? Like, we are a team mentality and we do not have any more space for anyone else to join this team. Was it a little toxic? Probably, but it was very much, I'm sure there's like a phrase for it. Like, it was like we had done all this trauma and hard stuff together. No way could somebody join this little family that we created. And that's what it started to feel like, especially towards the end.
Yeah, I think when I was thinking about why deployment creates such strong friendships so quickly, one of the things that came to mind was trauma bonding. So I think trauma bonding is probably an appropriate term for that. Like, we've gone through this suck together. And now it kind of makes an inseparable little group.
Oh, yes, which I love. Like, I feel so lucky I got to deploy with a squadron of people. Like, I know people will deploy as a wing and you're more spread out, whatever it may be. But to have a squadron that we were day in, day out supporting each other, and you like truly have to lean on each other to get this stuff done. We were thick as thieves is what it felt like.
So since you were so close as a squadron, what kind of like support did that offer you, or what did those friendships that you made play a role in those difficult days on deployment?
I think everyone was speaking the same language is what it felt like. the pilots would get familiar with what it sounded like on our feed state when there was TBMs in the air, and we got familiar with the support that they needed from us quickly. And it was like a well-oiled machine, and we were just able to work and get the job done. And it felt like almost immediately, like we hit the ground sprinting with ease. And especially the pilots showed up every single day and did phenomenal work. And I think our commander and DO did a wonderful job of like burnout existed, sure, because of the situation we were in, but nobody felt like they were doing more than they could handle. And that was exceptional to do, especially during a deployment like this when we were working as much as we did. Like, even though we worked 101 days straight, did I ever not show up and think I wasn't purpose filled or what I was doing wasn't important? And especially as intel, you guys might feel this as well. Like, aircrew don't necessarily need intel if they're not people who trust intel. Like, they could get the job done without us, but our aircrew was so amazing to be like, I want to know this, I want to know this, and I want to know this every single time that I fly. So we were purpose filled, we were cared about, we were listened to, and that made a world of a difference for just feeling like we had to lean on each other to get the job done.
Yeah, well, from my experience too, that's also a testament to the type of intel officer that you are as well, because a lot of aircrew, specifically patches, and I'm sure in the A10 community it's the same. If you don't know what you're talking about, they're like, there's the corner, go sit in it. We'll get back with you later, draw a little picture or something. And that's honestly how I felt for a while out here. And then it's like, you kind of just realize, like, I know what I'm talking about. I have this confidence in myself. I know what I'm doing. You kind of have to, believe that you're the professional that you want people to believe you are. And I remember that I really had to show them that I could do things that they didn't even task me to do. It's like, hey, you don't know that you need this product, but I'm going to do it for you. And you're going to see what a difference it's going to make for something that you're planning to. So I think that's awesome that after a little bit of integration with them, obviously you had the spin up before the first operation, but for them to trust you like that for their mission planning, that's...
Oh, yeah. And that's the beauty of intel, is it feels almost like a creative act. Like, they say, oh, I don't need anything for this. And you're like, oh, but I know that I can do this, this, and this, and it's going to make your life so much easier. But you have to be able to come up with that yourself. And that's why it almost feels like an art sometimes with what you can produce as intel, because you do have the ability to think of this stuff, but you have to have a desire to want to do so.
Yeah. Well, we know that you made a great community out there. You guys faced a lot of unique challenges during that 9-month deployment. What were some of the most challenging situations you found yourself in?
Oh, probably getting bombed by Iran. I think that's gonna be the first one. It was crazy. Actually, last night I just got dinner with a friend who was at Kuwait on D-Day. And her experience was absolutely insane to hear her recount. But it was nuts because nobody knew what to expect. We had no idea what a war with Iran was going to look like. And what we were briefed what was going to happen, it was way worse than that. So we did not expect it to be as bad as it was. I have vivid memories of the very first day. We didn't have bunkers built yet because we were operating at a forward base that had never really been entertained with the idea that maybe they need bunkers. So we did not have bunkers yet on the first day, the first like 3 or 4 days, and we didn't have doors on them until like 1 month in. But I remember on the very first day, we're watching the TBMs fly on our feed, and we have to run like a quarter of a mile to our HADs. And it was like the craziest feeling to be literally running for your life, and you just couldn't run fast enough, is what it felt like. It literally felt like in the movies where time had slowed, and we're like hearing the impacts around us. And I'm like, holy shit, this armor is so heavy. This helmet's falling off my head, and I just can't run fast enough. And that was probably the most challenging thing, is we're all running together, and you can just feel among us that we all feel like we're not running fast enough. And that was probably one of the most challenging things, was the unknown of what were they going to target? Are they targeting our base? How close are these missiles to us? And that lasted probably the first 72 hours of constantly bunkering, leaving the showers to go into the bunkers, because we didn't know if we were being targeted yet. Our location was just very safe, and it was a good one. But that was probably the most challenging thing, is the anxiety I felt all the time, thinking that I was potentially going to die. And that's something that I never, in my 10 years of service, I've never had to feel like I actually sacrificed for the Air Force. I've been very lucky to go to college where I liked and get the job that I want. And I got the duty station that I want. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually sacrificing my life for the United States. And that was something that obviously I know that I was doing, but to feel that to your core was a really eye-opening experience.
When you feel that, like you just described, you're actually in a situation where you're sacrificing for your country and that those words hit a lot harder, how does your leadership react in this? Like, because you said you're all going through this unknown together, but you still have leaders in the room. You have the people in charge. What are they doing? Anything to try to like prepare you, calm the group? Like, how are they responding?
Our leaders were fantastic. With the biggest thing that helped everyone was to just stay calm and try to stay cool and try to stay collected about it. We had our leadership, no one was ever too stressed for their own wits. Everyone was calm and they were locked in, and it was like, okay, we're going to go to the bunkers. We're going to get the pilots and the jets. You got to cut this. You got to do this. And like for the entire Deed 4-4 rescue was the same way of like, we had this huge stressful thing that we needed to do as a squadron, but nobody lost it. We were all like locked in, fenced in is what our commander would call it, the entire time. And she led with such like, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you need a minute? Okay, you don't need a minute. Then this is what I need you to do right now. She was clear, she was cut, and it helped so much because you could feel the calm all the way from the top. And I think if she was stressed out, it would have stressed us all out. But she embodied just like going into it, and we're going to do this mission that was asked of us, and we can, and we will. And I think that's what made everybody just execute so well.
Wow. That's awesome. Seeing that play out for everyone across, like in our Yuli chats across the force, I was so surprised because back home, we obviously try to practice how we're going to play, but there's nothing that ever I feel like really prepares you for something like that. But overall, just across all of the chats and everything that was going on, it would be like all of the different alarms that were going on. And everyone was just like, it was a well-oiled machine. There a lot of people I know, like covering in OEF in the media and stuff, it's like, oh, like there's been some comments I've seen, maybe this is a shit show, or what are we even doing there, or whatever. But I think that a lot of the things that we were able to accomplish together when we haven't done anything of this magnitude for a really long time, the way that we came together and were able to stay like calm and collected when we literally had thousands of soldiers that were out there that were literally taking fire at their respective bases every day. I think that is something really, truly special to celebrate.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that, last night my friend was telling me about how when they were at Kuwait, they were stuck in the bunkers and they could not leave because they were getting hit so hard. And somebody called the F-15s that were airborne, a group of F-15s that were airborne, and were like, we need help. And they were like, we're going to be there in 20 minutes. Like, it was just, everyone knew what we were doing was really hard and really scary. And everyone showed up across the entire force to make sure that we could keep as many people alive as possible. And although there was a lot of chaos, bottom line is the Air Force cares about its people internally. And that was seen over and over and over again.
So speaking about leaders and how you had a really awesome commander and DO, how has deployment changed your leadership style?
Oh, good question. I really loved, my commander was a female, and it was the first woman commander that I had that I wanted to embody everything about her. She would just, the entire 9 months, she never slipped up. And like, I was waiting. I was like, she's exhausted. She's a mother of 3, a wife, and a commander of an A-10 squadron that's doing the most gnarliest stuff ever. And she never slipped up. And I was like, girl, and she lives with people. Like, we are in a bay. You're surrounded by women all the time, people that you're in charge of. And every single day she showed up as the most phenomenal leader. And I hope she's taking the most restful R&R ever right now. But really, it comes back to like what I said before. She was always just so calm. Everyone could be running out, their heads cut off, and she calm a room and be like, okay, this is what we need to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And it just locked everyone in. Like, there wasn't time to be stressed about our circumstances. You had a leader that was telling you exactly what to do.
So from what you saw of her, how did she exactly take care of people when everyone was tired and operating at a high tempo? What were some of the things that she did to take care of all of you?
I think she was really wonderful, and something I just love about women in general is she would hear people complain about things and fix them without even making it a fuss. So for example, our boys' bay, the mosquitoes were so bad there. Like, the boys' bay had, they said, like hundreds and hundreds of mosquitoes. One of the pilots woke up and his whole body was covered in bug bites. It was disgusting. Like it looked like he had chicken pox. And obviously mail takes a while, so no one can get their mosquito nets quickly. And the pilots are just like, they're not asking for anything to be done, but they're at work and they're covered in bug bites. And then the next day we're getting fogged, like their room is getting fogged for mosquitoes. And that's just something that she would do is she would hear them complain. She'd never ask any questions. But all of a sudden they were like, yeah, they were fixing the mosquito issue. Like our commander had asked for that. And she just did that. It was like the little things that were like micro events that she did for our squadron that turned into, on a macro level, us respecting the hell out of her.
That's incredible. Well, maybe one day she'll come on the Bring Us Women podcast.
She'd probably love to.
But just kind of like based on what you saw from this amazing female leader that you had, as well as the experience of just being deployed for yourself, what's a leadership lesson that you're going to like take forward throughout the rest of your Air Force career because of this experience?
Something that I think has been said a lot, but I never had to embody and experience, is how important it is to take care of the people. I think we heard of squadrons that were deployed where they were worked but not taken care of, and you could see that in the way that they were performing. When you take care of your people, the mission innately is going to be done better. And I think people say that and they're like, mission or people first, mission always, but to like actually see the people being taken care of, the mosquitoes being killed for us, the food asking to be better, the laundry hours being extended, things like that made us all show up to be better performers. So I think if you truly take care of your people, you're actually going to be able to execute the mission better. And that was shown like real world in an actual combat environment.
Yeah, I love that. It's all in the little things, all in the little details. I think sometimes leaders think that they have to make some big grand statement or do a massive overwrite of a program or something like that, but it's really just in killing the bugs, you know?
Oh yeah. Yep.
I love that. So now that we've unraveled kind of some of the behind the scenes for the leadership and how your leaders took care of you and others, I want to break down how you took care of yourself, which is also super important. So during this deployment, how did you stay physically active while you were out there?
During Operation Inherent Resolve for the first 4 months, it was super easy to have a good exercise routine. Our little intel shop wanted to reach the 150-mile club, so we were running a lot, and we were able to have like a nice schedule to do so. The gym was nice. People lost tons of weight. People got into wonderful shape out there, and that's super normal to do. Once you switched to Epic Fury, we didn't really have the chance to go to the gym, but if you go into a deployment with exercise goals, it's totally feasible to reach them, especially because there's not a whole lot else to do. Like you work, call your family, go to the gym, you eat, and then you do it again the next day. And that's literally like the only thing you can do. So I think it's way easier. And there's also like no excuse not to, because the gym is like 20 feet away.
Yeah, every day when my family would call, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go hit my prison workout of the day, the bells and whatever rusty pull-up bar there is outside, but it gets the job done. So.
Oh yeah, that sucks. You don't have a better gym by you.
We have a good gym. There's no air conditioning in it right now. So I've been hitting the prison workouts have been at like the little Connex boxes that they got out here for us. So it's getting the job done. We're getting swole. We're coming back having a hot girl summer, maybe.
Good.
If I'm back by then.
Ooh, fingers crossed.
We'll see.
Well, Jordan, we know that not only is it important to stay physically fit, but probably more important is taking care of your mental health. So were there any routines that you had out there to help you kind of stay grounded in midst of all the chaos that you were experiencing?
Yes, something I did that was super weird that my baymates thought was really weird, but I got used to it after a few months in, is every morning I will listen to my little daily devotional and I stretch, and it's like a whole 15-minute ordeal. Everyone's sleeping, mind you, and it's pitch black in the room, but I have to start my day like that. And I remember like a month in, one of the girls I live with was like, do you stretch in the dark every morning? And I was like, you bet I do. And they're like crazy. And you're like, I'm on the ground doing cat-cow, like I'm stretching.
You're like, bro, I'm old. I gotta keep this body on lock.
Oh, and the beds were awful. Like I needed to stretch, otherwise I wasn't gonna be able to move. And plus we had to wear that heavy armor every time you were anywhere except if you were sleeping. So my body hurt. So I was gonna stretch in the dark. I was gonna stretch on the dusty floor. I was gonna do whatever I needed to stretch.
So you were taking hot yoga to a whole new level?
Oh, yes. Yes, I was.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could imagine waking up to someone next to me whispering Shavasana, and then
I
just
know.
okay, all right then. So with that, how did you recognize when you needed a mental rest or a mental reset or a mental rest amidst everything that was going on out there?
Oh, almost immediately. Something that was really unfortunate is we couldn't take a beat because, like, one, we had to work every day, but two, war doesn't stop because your mental health is not doing well. And I think everybody was kind of feeling that. It was definitely not an individual experience to be burnt out beyond belief, but still having to show up to work. I think we did a good job leaning into each other, but I think a lot of people had to go into themselves. And you see a lot of people at really their darkest time of their lives, probably, especially after the Dude 4 stuff. And because we all understood what was going on and understood the weight of what we were doing, you just had to give each other space. And that was a really, honestly, awesome experience to see. I don't know if awesome is the right word, but we'd show up and you could just tell when someone was having a bad day. And you just knew, like, it's not a regular Monday to Friday when you're like, hey, you're at work, you got to lock in. It was like, this is our entire life. So I understand if you're showing up today and you're out of it, that's just the way that it is. And I'm going to respect that. So that was really nice, is nobody was pushing people to perform when they couldn't. Obviously, we still had to be at work, but people were very mindful of, like, you don't have space to recover. So if you have to do it here at work, then that's okay.
And I feel like that's probably pulls back into how you were kind of like this bonded team. So when people had to experience things like that at work, like the rest of the team could cover down and help each other out in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, do you have any advice for anyone who's struggling mentally during a deployment? Maybe they're out there right now and they're listening.
If they are out there right now listening, Allie, me, oh, I hope you come home so soon. It really sucks. And I think that was something that my mom would start to be like, but look at all these silver linings. And I'm like, no, it just sucks. This just sucks. And that felt good for me to say and for people to be like, yeah, your situation sucks. And that's that. And like, I didn't have to grasp for like, but what about X, Y, and Z? It was nice to just know that this is one, temporary, and two, that it sucks. And that's about it. And it was as simple as that. Like, I think human beings love to make it some great, grand architect in their minds, but really at the end of the day, it just sucks. And what's happening out there sucks, and people being killed sucks, and war sucks. And it's really challenging. And I think a lot of people in the military presently didn't really sign up for anything like this. That's saying that we didn't know that we volunteered to be part of the war or a war, but nobody expects to go on deployment and die anymore. Like, that's not, when I raised my right hand in commission, I didn't think I'm going to die in the Middle East. So I think it just different than a lot of people were planning for, probably.
Yeah. And I have to have that perspective a lot too, because I feel like I'm still young and like gung-ho, and like I was very happy to join the military. But like not all of the airmen that I've been leading out here have felt the same way. And so I think it's so especially appreciated to have conversations like this with both of you that really get it, and I can just rant to about it, because I agree that is such a great way to cope. And I've been really struggling to keep it positive around my airmen and be like, no, we're doing great work out here, guys. But really what I want to be like is, man, this sucks. So I think that this has been really therapeutic, at least for just me, to be able to get on here and just talk about how it sucked with you guys.
Especially as a leader, you do feel like you have to show up in a certain way, even if it's different than how you're actually feeling.
Right. Just like your leader out there, I'm sure there was days when she was like, this sucks. Guys, I'm really stressed. I have a lot to deal with. I don't care about the mosquitoes, but I'm going to care about them because it sucks, and I want to help you to get through the suck and make it suck less. So, you know, I just think that there's something that's truly special about being able to find a place in your heart where you care about your people so much that no matter what you're going through, you're able to still show up for them every day. Well, after all of these crazy stories that we've already gotten into, we kind of want to, I know this is probably going to be a somber story to work through, but what is the most you won't believe this happened deployment story you're willing to tell today?
I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the Dude 4 stuff. However, I don't want to take any thunder away, because I'm sure our Sandy pilots are going to go talk about it on different podcasts elsewhere. I already know that they're being asked to talk about it, and they're the ones who flew over Iran to go rescue them. So I started at the end of night shift, and I had woken up that morning and bajillion text messages that were like, you got to come in, you're going to want a lot of caffeine. Obviously, it was classified at the time what was going on. So they just picked me up and they're like, it's really bad. Like, you're getting into work and this is going to be like the worst possible thing that could have happened. So our pilots had taken off. We have Sandy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Sandy mission, but that's like those who lead the rescue mission that goes into Iran. And that's an A-10 mission set. Other platforms learn how to do it, but the A-10 is their bread and butter. And it's what a lot of pilots who are A-10 pilots want to do. And that's why they become A-10 pilots. So we had all of our Sandy guys already airborne, heading to Iran almost immediately. And the rest of us had to sit down and do the mission planning because it takes a long time to get to Iran. So during that time, we had to find the threats, we had to pass them the data, the routing, all of that was happening live. And they got 4-4 Alpha. They were able to come home, but we knew we had to go back out there and get 4-4 Bravo. While this was happening, there was a lot of high-level visibility on this. Like 4-4 Alpha was so quick, people really didn't have the chance. They, as in like high leadership, didn't have the chance to like interfere really. But 4-4 Bravo took so long, and we didn't know where he was, and there was a lot of entities involved. So much so that the Chief of Staff of the Air Force was involved. Obviously, Pete Hegseth was involved. So a lot of big names making big decisions that were directly being sent to Sandy 1. So we had it would be funny, like on our phone, literally in our skiff, it'd just be like the Pentagon was calling. And like we were just like talking to really important people about what needed to be done because we had the Sandy pilots and they were leading the mission. And at the very end, after we got 4-4 Bravo, everything calmed down. Almost immediately, we got a phone call from General Kane. And we pick up the phone and he goes, "Long Nation," and like the whole bridge, all the Sandy pilots. And we were like, oh my God. Everyone was just over the moon because we'd gotten 4-4 Alpha, we got 4-4 Bravo. And General Kane was just so funny. And he wanted the nitty gritty. He was like, tell me what happened. Like, what were you doing? And he was asking specific questions. I was like, did somebody Google this and tell him to ask this? But he just loved the A-10, and he was so proud of the Sandy pilots. Obviously, all of us were. And then one of our pilots was shot down and had to eject, luckily in friendly territory, but he wanted to talk to him. He was like, get him on the phone. We're going to make a movie about you, man. Like, you're amazing. And that was really cool just to like have been mission planning with such high leadership and then to close the loop and be like, thank you. Thank you so much. We also got phone calls from guys that we picked up and stuff, and they also were just so thankful. So that was probably I can't believe this happened, is that we were like mission planning with the heads of the military. And then at the end, they even had the like remembrance to call us and thank us for everything that we did, even though it was definitely tough. The mission planning was not fun. I'm sure anybody who tells you and recounts the story later, it was so many ideas that were just not good ones were thrown out there. But it was really nice at the end for them to call and be like, thank you for standing up for your guys and this mission and for those dudes on the ground. And that was really cool. And I still can't believe that he even said thank you to me and the captain that we were with. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, this is the best day of my life. So that was really cool.
Dang, that's crazy. And how long was your shift that day?
I left for a little bit in the middle, but most people stayed awake for the full 40, I think it was 44 hours.
Jeez.
I went home in between like when they took off to get 4-4 Bravo. And I didn't come back in until a little bit after they were already in Iran. But yeah, a lot of people stay awake for the full 44 hours.
Yeah, I remember coming into my shift, and I won't get into all of the specifics, but I remember we were mission planning for stuff, and someone was like, I need to know something that the A-10s, like this information that they have. And I remember that I was like, oh, I know a girl. I actually know one of them. And I was like, let me call Jordan. And I called, and they're like, do you know that you're requesting the woman of the hour? Do you think she has time for you right now? Like, it was like some airman that was like saying that in like the nicest way possible, but they're like, I'll pass the data to her. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. And tell the president that I said hi when you get the chance. But I just thought that was so cool that this like person that I met through Issa is like the one that is leading the intel charge on this insane mission that will go down in the history books forever. And just to be watching what was going on and seeing the work that you guys were doing, I'm Like they say, never live to see your heroes. I'm doing it right now, guys. I'm doing it right now.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. So extremely proud of you and the work that you and the A-10 team were able to accomplish in bringing our F-15 brothers home.
Yes, it's still insane. Like, I think I don't even feel like I fully processed it. I don't think our squadron has yet either. And I know that we're getting all of the Sandy pilots, hopefully some Air Force crosses, like the most distinguished awards that you can get, because holy cow. Like, I literally still can't believe that had happened.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know too, like when you're in the midst of going through all of this, is your body even like allowing you to feel any of like the, oh shit, like this is what's happening, or oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this? Or you're just like, block that all out. I'm just in work mode. And now weeks later, I can deal with all of that.
Oh, yes. It definitely felt like this was, oh shit, I gotta lock in. And like, I would hate to be like, it was really challenging for me because we had our pilots come back, and like one of them literally, they landed. It was like a 14-hour flight to pick up 4 Alpha, and they landed and he just like collapsed. Like the adrenaline was so high. So I'd hate to say the experience that I had was challenging compared to what they had to do, but it was nuts. Like we're so lucky to have built a rapport with our leadership that they relied on us for the entire communication between the JPRC and our mission planners. So like we're sitting there, our commander's watching us, our patches are in there, and that's the only people that were allowed in the room at the time because there was just too much going on. So we had up like the live feeds, we had up the state, we had up the JPRC chat, we had up all the comm that was going on, and we're watching this live. And we're so thankful that like we had built enough rapport where our commander was like, I'm trusting you to handle this entire thing. Like go forth and conquer. Just tell me when I need to really be locked in. And one of the craziest stories probably from the whole thing that I feel like was probably my most notable moment from the deployment is in the jet when Sandy had gotten hit. They said Sandy unlucky jet, which means that they were about to eject like immediately. And it was nuts. Like we see it up on the screen and like there's a lot going on. So I look at it, there's a pilot to my right, and I was like, does that say Sandy unlucky jet? And I say that, and then we all look at the JPRC chat. We're like, because we know who it is, and it's our guy, and the air leaves the room. Like it was a whole 90 seconds probably before they said that he had recovered, but then different parts of his aircraft were hit. Again, I don't want to tell the full story because I'm sure he's going to come on a podcast and tell the full story himself. Different parts of his aircraft were hit. He had to fly manual version all the way back the friendly territory and eject for like 300 miles. Absolutely insane. And honestly, if it wasn't such an experienced pilot that it could have went way worse. It was, of the crew, like I'd hate to say any of them obviously should be hit, but of the crew, he was the most capable pilot to have been hit by a missile and survive. So we're, I guess, in some ways lucky that it was him because he's so talented. But it was like probably the longest, similar to on D-Day when it felt like I just couldn't run fast enough. It felt like time had stopped. It felt like the 90 seconds. Like I still remember the seconds of being like, holy crap, we just lost one of our guys. Like that was just so heavy. And the whole room was eerie to be in. And then they said he recovered, and then we were figuring out where he should eject and what country is going to take him. And then we had to do all the planning to get him out of the jet safely. And we were immediately back into work mode.
I can't believe that, like, hearing stories, even early on in the conflict when we had the 3 F-15s go down near Kuwait, and then hearing, like, that they were probably just going to be put back in the fight again. And, like, what do you do in that situation? This is something that we have not experienced probably during our lifetimes, like, shoot down of, like, significant aircrafts over a foreign country. So I can't imagine the adrenaline that was going through your unit, or really just the immense effort that it took to bring that back home. But you know what? We made it look easy. Not we. Y'all made it look easy. I think you guys should be so proud of yourselves. We're all proud of you.
Oh, thanks.
Well, wrapping it up, what is one thing after this whole conversation and everything that you've experienced, what is one thing deployment has taught you about yourself?
Oh, probably that I can do way harder things than I ever thought I could do. Like I was like, oh, I can do hard stuff. But this was really hard. Like it was really, really hard. The living conditions were awful. The working conditions were awful. We're working for 101 days straight. The hours that we did, the ability to show up every single day when I really didn't want to. I would say to anybody, like anybody can do this, but man, did I never think that I could. You know, like if you had told me in July of last year that this is what my deployment was going to be like, I was going to say, no way am I going to be able to persevere through that. And then I did. And our squadron did. And everyone out supporting Epic Fury did. And you show up every single day. You spend the night in the bunker. You wake up, you go to work, and you do it again. And I think that's what this deployment taught me, is I could do way harder things than I ever thought. And that it's okay to be proud of myself for something like this, even if I didn't do it gracefully 100% of the time.
Hey, from our angle, it looked graceful as hell. That's all I got to tell you.
The Instagram dump went crazy.
Yeah, it did. I was doing, this girl accomplished some things out there.
No,
yeah, it was worth it just for that 300 likes.
I also think, Jordan, like, out of all the intel professionals that I know, there is no other person I would have wanted in this situation than you, as like weird or as hard as that is to say. But I think that you are so incredible at what you do that this, like, not to say that you were made for this deployment, but you were fully capable of rising to every obstacle and challenge that it brought you because of who you are.
Oh, thank you, Isha. It does feel really nice. I think as I'm coming home and finally reflecting, it felt like in a lot of ways my whole career was leading up to this. For some weird reason, like, I got home and I was like, oh, I can hang my hat on my career now. Like, I hit 10 years in a week, and it feels like I have, like, did it. Like, I've done everything that I wanted to, and that feels really good. Like, it feels good to be halfway through and be like, oh, I could get out, and I've been really proud of my performance in the United States Air Force, which is a really great feeling in itself.
Yeah, I think you should be. You should be.
Thank you.
Well, just to, like, close this out, are there any other last words that you want to leave with our listeners who maybe have people deployed, or they're thinking about joining and know that they might deploy one day, or just anything?
I guess I would say that Operation Epic Fury is not normal, and that if they want to join, I wouldn't think that every deployment moving forward should be like this, hopefully. And that a traditional deployment is good. You learn a lot about yourself. You get to spend time with who you are and have a mirror held up to you and become a better version of yourself and learn a lot of things if you choose to do so. But I'm proud of everybody that's supporting Epic Fury, and I hope everyone gets to come home soon, because this 2-week deployment has turned into the longest, like, 6-month deployment ever. And I hope Allie comes home. I hope all my friends that are still out there get to come home, and I hope that they get to recover from the traumas that we've endured just to support this war.
Yeah, we also hope Allie comes home soon.
Thanks, ladies.
Well, Jordan, are you doing anything now to kind of recover or reset now that you are home?
One good thing about a 9-month deployment is we get 3 weeks of R&R. So if you want more time off, stay deployed longer. But I'm just staying in Pensacola. That's where Jacob is for part of his pilot training. So I'm here. I barely left the Airbnb. Yesterday was like the first day I left, and I've been here for 10 days. It's been really nice to, like, scroll on Instagram and to watch Ted Lasso and to drink wine starting at like 3 p.m. It's been awesome. My parents come tomorrow, and I'll kind of go back to reality after that. But people need to take their R&R. Allie, when you get home, soak up your time with your husband and just be a homebody if you feel called to do so.
Oh, yeah. I'm already planning it, and I will have a glass of wine in my hand. Best believe.
Oh, yeah. I'm drinking this stuff so fast. I'm like, oh, I can do anything I want now.
Well, Jordan, thank you for coming on the Bring Us Women podcast. We're so happy that you're home. We're incredibly grateful that you were willing to share such a personal chapter of your life with us. And to Allie, and to everyone still deployed, we're thinking of you, we're praying for your safe return, and we can't wait to welcome you home. To our listeners, thank you for spending this time with us. And thank you to those listeners who sent in questions for this episode. We hope today's conversation gave you a deeper understanding of what deployment can look like, the sacrifices made not only by those who serve, but also by the families who support them, and the resilience it takes to navigate both. If this episode resonated with you, left you with more questions, or if you have your own deployment stories, lessons, and advice to share, we'd love to continue the conversation. Head over to bringuswomen.com and join us in the group chat. Your experiences matter, and your stories may be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Until next time, be bold, keep leading, and we can't wait to bring you the next woman. The views expressed on this podcast are our own and do not constitute endorsement by the Department of War, the Department of the Air Force, or the U.S. government.